Hi guys, welcome to this video series on learning Kotlin. My name is Praveen and I'm a software engineer at Uber. I'm pretty sure you guys must have heard about Kotlin and why it's so awesome and why you should totally switch to it from your peers or from conferences like Google I/O. But if I have to summarize why Kotlin I think is a better language for the JVM is because it's pragmatic, it's concise, and it has awesome tooling support. So through this series, I want to share my thoughts on the language, the things that I have learned, and I hope that it might be useful for anyone who's venturing into this language. I feel that learning the language, the best way to do that is through tasks by solving some real world issues or hypothetical issues, at least for this tutorial, but to get something done in the language. So that is how I plan to go through the different features of the language, is by having tasks that we need to achieve. This series assumes that you have some experience with programming, preferably Java. So if you have that, that would be nice to have. And also this series is going to touch the language on a need to know basis. So when we touch something like, let's say, variables or functions in Kotlin, we might not explore everything that the language has to offer, but we'll explore them as we go on. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's see what our first task is. So the first task of learning a language, just like any other language, is to print hello world in it. So let's see how we can do that. So if you've used IntelliJ, you might be aware of this shortcut that prints public static void main in Java. The same shortcut prints main in Kotlin. And if you want to print something, you use println, which is similar to system.out.println in Java. So let's print hello world. And if you run the program, you see hello world on the console. So that's your basic Kotlin program. Let's try to look at the main function in a bit more detail. We see that we use the keyword fun to tell the compiler that this is a function. The main name is kind of a special name, similar to the main in Java. The function does not take any arguments. In earlier versions of Kotlin, you had to specify array string, similar to the args for the Java function main, but now that is optional. Yep, so that's how you print hello world in Kotlin. You'll notice that we don't have semicolons. They're optional. They're optional because it's a good practice to have meaningfully independent or semantically independent lines of code on different lines. So that's a good practice that we even follow in Java. So semicolons are optional, but you can do this. And when you execute this, it should print what is expected. Cool. So let's look at the next task. The next task is declare a variable called message and set it to hello. Okay. So let's get back to our main function and let's declare a variable called message. So we use the val keyword to declare a variable, and we have assigned it to the string hello. You'll notice that I have not specified the type of the variable because the type is inferred. You can specify the type explicitly. In this case, it's a string, but it's optional. And for simple primitive values, it would it's a practice to not specify the type, because you can like just read the code and understand the type. So the second task is to print the message. So let's sys out the message, and when we execute the program, it should print hello. Cool. So far so good. Let's look at the third task. Try printing the following: hello world. Okay, so if we have to print hello world, one thing we can simply do is modify the value of message and just execute it. That should print hello world. But let's look at some different ways in which we can do this. So let's say if the value was hello, we could have, if you come from Java, you could have done something like this and execute it, and it prints the same value. But if you see this small squiggly yellow line under the value of println, and let's see what the compiler is telling you. The compiler is hinting on something like convert concatenation to template. So let's try that and see what happens. You see that the message has now been prefixed with a $sign. This is called a string interpolation in Kotlin, and what this does is actually instead of printing the string message, would actually print the value of message. You can optionally also have complex expressions like function invocations on types, but if you just use the same variable, the curly braces are optional. Let's print this and see what happens, and it prints the same value as expected. Cool. So we covered the plus operator to concat strings, and we also covered string interpolation. That's it for this tutorial, and I'll continue with more language features in the next videos. Until then, feel free to check this out on GitHub and try out these samples, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Please leave your comments if you have any suggestions that I can incorporate in these videos. Thank you so much, and see you next time.